GM. GM. Today is Monday, 10th of June. We had our second strong, air quotes, weekly close above the old all-time high of 69. Previous all-time high over there. Been looking at this now. To me, it's not like super important or relevant. It was just something that I think many people would be surprised by, given that we first touched 69 back at the start of March. Right, we hit all-time high at the start of March, April, May, June. 3 months later, people would have, I think if you ask people here, how many weekly closes would we have above 69k by June? I don't think many people would have said 1, 2. Depending on the exchange, you technically can say this one as well. But of course, that was a bearish candle that led to bearish continuation. The point is, look at all the wicks. There is very, very, very clearly, super clear, super obvious, profit taking, selling, supply at the old all-time high. So my question is, how long is that going to go on for? There's always selling at all-time high, okay? Every time we get there, at least, we have a limited amount of data points. So keep that in mind as well. But if you look here, and we go back to 2020, and then we go back to 2015. So every time we come up to the previous all-time high, so this was the 2013 all-time high that we came back up to in 2017. 2013 all-time high, came back in 2017. These are weekly candles. Initial selling at the all-time high. Once, twice, 3 weeks, failed to reclaim it. Selling again in a 4th week, and then we broke through it. Profit taking at all-time high, super common. That one led to a 33% pullback from the highest point. In 2020, December, when we went back up to the 2017 highs, we just had 1 week of actual rejection of it. But we had profit taking at that level really for 3 weeks, and then we broke through. And here we are now in 2024 with the same thing happening, except much slower, and not running through it, and still, I would say, rejecting off it. Yes, this is still rejecting, really, until you have a impulsive close through the level. As you can see from back in March, just having a close through, even through 70, is not enough. But that does set us up with a swing high. Let's keep it really, really simple. Once you get a BOS on this level, for everyone who's done my market structure lessons, once we get a weekly break of structure here, ideally with some volume confluence, that should be it. That should be enough then for Bitcoin to continue to its next level, which, depending on where we go, probably minimum target would be 80. And what would actually be more bullish would be a bigger move through, as we tend to do. So when the all-time high breaks properly, you tend to get a large breakaway candle when it eventually breaks. The mistake people make every cycle is just buying at the all-time high and thinking it's going to go straight through. Which, by the way, historically, if you've just bought spot BTC at all-time high and you held it for a few weeks, you've actually always ended up fine, right? But when you see these impulse and then gap candle, so I think 2017 is similar to what we might see, where the first one doesn't break through massively, but then it follows up with a big gap candle, and there we go, away we go. You want to see a breakaway from it. Now, I don't know if we will, because Bitcoin is different now, just frankly. Bitcoin is not the asset it used to be. It's changed massively. And I do expect that when it breaks away, there'll be an area where it does not revisit until, the next bear market. And if it gaps up like this to 76 or 77, I think there'll be probably an area left here that doesn't get retested. As people wait for the retest, it never comes. And then it starts to get choppy above there, right? And you start to see less of a up-only impulsive kind of structure, but maybe more of a grinding. Bitcoin just grinds higher. Even look at this, for example. This was all moving higher, but it was short impulses followed by lengthy consolidations, right? There were only two impulses here that took us from really 16K all the way to 31. The impulse, then we consolidated. The impulse, then we consolidated. And then the next impulse led us into really our most bullish phase of this whole market. And I think this was the easy mode, bullish, up only. The rest of it will be still bullish, still tradable, still very profitable for holders. But I don't think it will be, really big breakaways with no retest. I think you'd only get that once at this breakout. And I do think that when 75 breaks, you'll see a lot of shorts having to close because they're now undoubtedly wrong and we don't come back to that level. I don't know when that's going to be. If you've watched my videos, I'm still short-term cautious here based on the Bitcoin. The fact that it's in a consolidation, it's towards the high end of it and it's rejecting. And here we are. So we're fine, decent weekly close, but rejected 72K a bunch of times. This isn't like, the thing about that is everyone knows it and everyone's talking about it, which doesn't mean it's not valid. It's absolutely accurate and true to say we've rejected 72 once, twice, 3, 4 times since originally hitting it. But in a really simple volume perspective, we're at the value area high. We've rejected a breakout from there, a break from value 4 times. We're back inside and we're heading towards the lows. Now, within that, there's this structure, which is most important on the short term. It can go down here and all the way to the lows, but that support 67, which if you draw the value area of this consolidation that we're in here, right, that support, let me draw this in green, this zone, if we are not able to get out of that, will send us probably down to the low end there. If we're not able to get out of that, that will be our continued consolidation. And that's where it actually would get bullish again. And what's your immediate bullish plan? Flipping this, holding outside of it. That's where we go for all-time high, I think, pretty much straight away. So there are bullish paths here. Expect very choppy conditions until Wednesday. Wednesday we have CPI and, sorry, that's the wrong one. That's the webinar. CPI, inflation data, Fed meeting Wednesday. Until then, expect chop. Over in Europe, there's been parliamentary elections with big shifts towards the right wing. How will that affect things? I don't know. How's the German market looking? Is it down yet? It's open? Yeah. Down slightly. What else really matters? Can't do the UK one. Doesn't really matter. The euro against the dollar. Gap down on the open. Right? So initially the Eurozone taking those results negatively if you assign that to the reason. That makes sense because most of the right-wing people are Eurosceptic, which means they don't like the EU, they don't like the common currency. Many of them are outspoken against this. They want to go back to each country having its own currency, which I think would be very interesting. And outside of that, crypto, how's it looking? Ethereum, weak. A weak reaction initially. And I've actually got an old alert here that went off for Ethereum, got into a value area, triggered back in value area. It's not quite yet, but you've seen me mark this a couple times here. This shaded yellow orange zone, if Ethereum falls into that, it's again very likely to be unwinding further. It's now actually very nicely testing it as long as that holds. And if Ethereum flips itself back into the blue zone here, I think that's when it can go for the highs. So zoom that in on the 4 hour. That sets up a couple of nice bullish paths. Sorry, a couple of paths, one bullish, one bearish. And I think that a SR flip around here is probably key. If ETH's able to flip that level there, I think that's when it looks good for longs, especially when it gets back above that old POC. Otherwise, market's probably going to be quiet and sideways until Wednesday. S&P, I've talked about this summer chop. We'll see what happens. By no means calling for it to just move like that. That was just something I drew out when I was comparing previous election years, in which we do always tend to have chop pre-election. But who knows? That's just based on the fact that there's a lot of indecision. People don't know what's happening. And we'll see. So that's it, GM. Tomorrow, starting at 4 a.m. UTC, if you've seen, I am doing 24 hours straight in the campus. I will be here every fucking minute of the entire day, posting, trading, answering questions, working fucking hard to show you how a trader in crypto in a bull market works to make sure they don't miss any opportunities. GM.